Welcome, welcome to the Plus Sides Podcast. How is everybody
Hey,
doing? I'm so glad
yeah.
to have you here.
I know, right?
So, today is a weird episode, y'all. So, we're calling it Speculating Our Faces Off because we have a community guest who actually works in market access on pharma and big pharma. She doesn't work for, Mounjaro or Lilly or anything like that, but she's just got really good insight on kind of how this industry works. And we're also going to hear about her community story. And we're going to talk about a lot of things, like everything from the Mounjaro savings card and what we think about the new one that just dropped and what we think it's going to look like before FDA approval and after
Dun, dun,
FDA approval.
dun. Yep.
This is like a massive episode of just like big fat opinions. So just know going forward, like, don't be like, oh, these are facts because the plus side
No.
said so. It's not. This is not that episode. This is not the facts and data. This is the, hey, we're your friends and we've been telling you some stuff and now we're going to give you our opinions and we will go from there. But it should be a wild ride and we're excited to have you here.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say hello. If you don't know me, I'm sure you do if you're listening at this point, but I'm Kim Carlos. And this particular podcast actually started out of the GLP1 TikTok community, where we had a lot of us come together who are dealing with obesity and related diseases and being able to leverage this medication to change our lives. I've lost 60 pounds since July. Right now I take wegovy. I'd probably be on the path and on these for quite a while because I've always struggled with obesity ever since I was a young girl, really since the beginning. And I had an eating disorder from the age of 8, which I no longer have. So this has helped me really be able to completely change my life. And I just met so many wonderful people in this community. And we just thought, you know what, more people need to know about this. We want other people to feel the way that we do. And we were sick of the bullshit spin in the media. And we wanted real things out there as opposed to like doctored narratives that were meant to fit the agenda of other people. So that's what this podcast is about. And that's my spiel. But let's get started now. Janine, hi. Tell us about you.
Hey, hey,
And we
hey.
drink water here
Oh,
too,
super
y'all. Y'all just
sleuth.
gonna see it. Mhm.
Yes,
And our
yes.
tea. It's piping hot. Our tea is piping
Nice,
hot.
nice, nice.
It's not
This,
tea because we're speculating. Go ahead.
Yes.
yes.
There's some tea.
And this is my emotional support water bottle. So it goes everywhere I go. But hey, everyone. I I think you all know me by now. I am Janine Trott. Uh, I am a type 2 diabetic. I struggle with obesity, with late in life obesity. I also have an autoimmune disease called Sjogren's syndrome. But these things don't define me. I just wanted, just to let you know, just so you can kind of get context for
Totally.
while we're, in the podcast. But so happy to
Yeah.
be here. So happy that you all have joined us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Heck
Thank you.
yeah.
Now, I don't see your name, Kat. What I'm reading here is Mounjaro slash, and I don't know why you wrote slash instead of slash, but I
Yeah.
assume there's a
Because
character
that's you're supposed
situation.
to say it that way, right?
Slash
Slash
Ozempic
Ozempic
Dukes.
do? What is that?
So
It's
tell us
chia
more about that.
seeds and plastic and whatever shit people say is a
The
uh,
natural
natural
GLP1
way to
Dukes.
fill up your stomach
What's not going
and
to
make
have
you
you
not
lose
want to
like
binge.
20 pounds in 2 weeks?
Oh yeah, sure. Chia seeds. That's the
Really?
answer all along.
Yeah,
That's
it's just the same thing.
age-old
Yeah.
Really?
problem of obesity. It's chia seeds.
It's some chia seeds and flax seeds. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll
Oh
lose
yeah.
weight because you'll be on the toilet all day if you eat
Yeah,
that much,
indeed.
Pretty
right?
much.
Or the dense concrete block cookie dough
Yeah. Yeah,
Mounjaro
right. Yeah, because
dupe, right?
for sure there is definitely a dupe for cookie dough
Yeah.
to help obesity.
So I would say,
Hmm.
I'd be like, honey, the level of obesity that I've been dealt with, honey,
No, no.
no, no, no,
Mm-mm,
no.
no, no.
Let me tell you what
Mm-mm.
I used to be able to do if I had my mind set to it. No, ma'am.
Yeah. No,
No
no.
amount of cookie dough, chia seeds, fiber one
Mm.
bars, or any other shit. Did you guys ever um, was called Full Bars. Still stupid.
Yes, Kat, I legitimately was just thinking about that and how stupid that
It was
was.
so dumb. It was
Eat
like
this and feel
barley.
full, and then eat food. Yes, the full
Bullshit.
bars.
Full
Oh
bars?
my god,
It was
Really?
so
awful.
dumb.
Yes,
Created
Janine.
by a gastric
Yeah.
crap, I can't think it. Oh my gosh, a surgeon, a weight
Yeah,
loss
that's
surgeon.
our gastric
Yeah,
surgeon. We'll take
created
that.
by a gastric surgeon. That listen, I'm just I think
Yeah.
making cakes all day. Speaking of, that was the kind of
Just
damage
started.
I used to be able to do. But anyway, so
Yeah.
the Mounjaro / Ozempic dupe, that is hilarious. And
Yeah.
so
It's
been
not
going
the
around.
first. It's not the first.
Full
Like, and I
bars.
think we're seeing that a lot right now, right? Is that because we know, like, for those who don't take Mounjaro, but many people that have, which is a lot of this, like, social media wise, got started with that.
Mhm.
But the reason that things are going kind of crazy is because right now the original coupon that Eli Lilly used to go to market with Mounjaro did not say you had to have type 2 diabetes. So people were taking it off label for obesity and losing a lot of weight. It was helping them in a lot of different ways, like PCOS and insulin resistance and all these different things. So it was amazing. It was amazing. But they eventually had to put a stop to it because, frankly, it went viral. And when that happened, they were like, okay, we got to put a date on it. So they agreed to honor the original one through June of this year in 2023. So it is now June of 2023. So shit has gone
I had to do
wild.
something.
It has gone wild on TikTok, on social, everywhere where they're talking about like we were saying, like these dudes.
Shit.
It is bananas. Like, yeah, I said that on Dr. Albert we had on the first episode. I said to him, like, in his live the other day, I was like, the train, he always says the train has left the station. This is how we handle obesity now, right? And I was like, the train is off the tracks. And he was like, yes, it is. It is like it's off the tracks. So today our episode is off the tracks.
It's
We'll
off the
talk all about
tracks.
that.
Oh, I need to mention just I'm Kat Carter 7 on TikTok if you want to follow me for butt stuff.
Butt stuff.
And I might even incorporate some arm stuff too, because I do that while I'm at my
I need
desk
arm
too.
stuff.
These bands will make you dance. These bands will make you dance.
Look, I need butt stuff because I have Mounjaro butt. I'm sitting on a pillow.
You don't
as
have
we
to have
speak.
Mounjaro, but we're supposed to have muscle as we age anyway, right? So put on some
I'm not that
muscle.
old, dag nabbit.
Well, I
Dag
know,
nabbit.
but dag nabbit.
Old timer.
Get off
Well,
my
I
lawn.
did have a butt in January, and now I'm sitting on a pillow.
Yeah,
You're like, ladies, you can't rely on that little bit of jelly now.
You gotta do some butt stuff with Kat.
You gotta put your back in. I'm sorry, I won't do that. I won't do it. You gotta put your back into it.
Yeah.
Anyway, and
Okay.
speaking of, my ATLian went with me this weekend to.
Oh, our mascot.
Aw.
ATLian. Yes.
The
My
ATLian.
He went with you?
He's my fellow Prince fan,
He
and
is indeed.
my Cycle Bar East Cobb. Woo woo. Yeah.
Was he sitting on the handlebar?
No, it's a dresser. It's a office furniture back here. Dresser is on my.
Did you say he's sitting on a cycle bar?
Yeah, that would be kind of cool if he had like handlebars. No, he's just got his hand up because he's showing his
VIP pass.
His VIP pass to Paisley Park from 2004.
Oh my god. Well, we love our ATLian because it is our mascot.
Yeah, we had a great time because my cycle bar, they had a Prince ride on Sunday. Hold on. Oh! So that was great.
I bet that was like the
best. It's perfection. I can do it so well. First of all, tomorrow is Prince Day.
There's
all
of
my
Prince
friends. I'm not. No lie.
I love dreams like
6/7 was the day of birth of our patron saint of music.
Yeah.
And
he was the greatest to ever do it. He was the greatest.
He did everything. But a lot of my friends are in Minneapolis right now because Paisley Park every year. Yeah. They do. Well, and with COVID, they shut it down, but they do celebration. So
cool.
It is heavy, intense Princing for days and days. I would go to Minneapolis, but I am an off the tracks girl, which means I don't do Paisley Park celebration. because
okay.
I went to Paisley Park and saw him for $50 versus these tickets are $1,000.
No.
And there ain't no Prince because you can put him in the hologram. But anyway,
Yep,
I
yep,
do all
yep.
the parties after party. Oh, they're insane. But I'm not going this year. But shout out to all of my Minnesota Prince
Well,
family.
Minnesota, yeah.
And my friends going to Minnesota.
Yeah, you know.
Minnesota.
You gotta go. You gotta check out Paisley Park. Put it on your bucket list.
Okay.
All the
Done.
Prince, everything.
We fly over it. I've like flown over it.
You fly over everything, Janine. You're flying with Delta. I fly
I'm
over
like,
that
hey.
sometimes. I know where the ocean is.
Like, oh, there it is.
Funny. Is that a Great Lake? Is that Lake Huron or is that the ocean? Just kidding.
Oh, so
I
as you can
actually
tell,
do call
I
the
just said that.
pilot
it's a very
and like
structured
ask where we
episode.
are. I do call
What?
them. I'm like, hey, what are we flying over?
That's funny. I do like looking at the little thing in Delta where you can see where your plane is. That's kind of neat.
I like watching that.
Yeah, it's all I get
Me
to. It's
too.
like, ooh. Okay, anyway, sorry. Okay, let's get
We
to
got
it.
really off the rails.
But I mean, like, this is off the rails episode.
Speculate
This
your
is a
faces off.
speculation episode where we're going to talk about all the things. We're even going to talk about the recent acquisition, or I don't even acquisition is the thing, of a telehealth company so that Nim can prescribe GLP-1 medications. You know, we're going to talk about the savings card. We're going to talk about type 2 diabetes and like this medication and like maybe what's going to happen with the FDA approval or lack thereof at the end of the year and stuff like that. We're going to talk about all the things. So let's get started. Let's start with having our guest. We do need to. Like, we are literally having this conversation because we all feel very strongly that you need to hear different perspectives. And we want you to hear, like, of course, what we think, but we also want to make sure the conversation is had because there's a whole lot of stuff going on right now. Like, if you're in this community, you have seen the shit. Like, so let's talk about it. Without further ado, let's invite in our community guest, Lisa. Hey, Lisa.
Hi,
Welcome to the craziest episode we've had yet.
And I love Prince. I'm so happy. I'm singing back. I'm like singing 1999 or 1999 in my head.
Yeah.
Lisa
that is a crazy Prince person.
We are like already in love with you because I'm obsessed with Prince. I like have a lock of his hair.
You said that on the recording.
So
I do.
I have come forward with my weirdness. Come forward with yours, Janine.
Bring it. Bring the weirdness.
Bring the weirdness out.
Hey, listen.
We have candy on the weird side. Just come join us.
Okay.
Plus side on the weird side.
/ weird side.
Own podcast.
Yes. Anyway, so Lisa, something that you probably have seen that we will keep the same this episode is that it's important to the girls and I, as well as many people in our community, that we give people space to tell their story and their testimony so that we can understand, because there's going to be somebody out there who's going to go, that sounds like me. Right. And that person's going to go, I should talk to my doctor, instead of being doctor averse, never getting help, and either getting really sick and having miserable existence when they don't have to, or possibly unaliving early. And we don't want that. Right. So we want to hear your story. We want you to have space where it's uncut, unfiltered. You just talk to us. And then after that, we'll speculate our faces off. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Ready, set, go.
So, hi everyone. My name is Lisa. I live in Orange County, California. So it's so funny. I'm always on like so much later than everybody else. I feel like I'm one of the only ones on the West Coast. But so my story with Mounjaro started, like, I remember writing myself out a diet when I was in second grade, and I still have it. And it has the infographics on it and what I was going to eat. And I showed one of my brothers, and he's like, "I'll help you." And I'm like, looking back, I was thinking about this today. In second grade, I was doing this. And I think I was really obese until I gained 30 pounds in high school, but I was always the bigger friend. So then that's where I brought in comedy and makeup and doing anything to divert. I grew up in a big Italian family where food, it's like any culture, right? Where you have a rich culture, food is a big part of it. So it was like, and I'm sure everybody can relate to this, happy, sad, any emotion any celebration, being it happy or sad, food was involved. And so, but the time I was in high school, I gained 30 pounds my senior year in high school. And at that point, my mom always had weight issues too. So I was at that point started the cycle. So Jenny Craig, Lindora, Slim Fast, this awful diet where you made these muffins out of this weird Jello stuff. It was 800 calories a day. It was every diet that you could imagine, and of course it's the roller coaster up and down. I remember being in college at a sorority, at a fraternity party, and a guy comes up to me. He's like, "You know what? You're really pretty, but you're really fat." And I was like,
Whoa.
"Wow." So
did you punch him? Because that would have been really hard for me not to punch him.
Oh my gosh, I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Of course, like hindsight is 20/20. So I walked away and I was like,
What a
and
turn.
I didn't cry. I was just like,
yeah.
Wow.
So of course, then all my girlfriends rallied around me, and but it's still stuck, and I still remember that. But so anyway, graduated college, and then got into pharma, and I remember my friend saying, there's no fat pharma reps, and I'm like, look around, I'm like, there really wasn't. And so at that point too, I would be still on a diet, and never really where I considered myself to be really obese, because I just never felt that way. And so I had my first two boys, and then when we wanted to try for a third, my doctor was like, you told me I had PCOS. In the meantime, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, family history of diabetes. And so she said, you have PCOS. But at the time I could only take metformin. So took that. It was awful. It was awful drug. It was, I had diarrhea. Then I'd have constipation, just horrible side effects. Everyone that you could have, I had. But I was on it because I wanted to get pregnant. So I lost enough weight to get pregnant at that point. And so had our son, and he's healthy. And then Victoza came out in 2014. And he's like, do you want to try this drug? It's a GLP1. And of course, I didn't even question him. I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. And if my insurance covered it, it was no question, because there was no hype around this at the time. And I had a family history of taking, metformin first, no problem. Victoza. And then he said, there's a new one that came out in 2017, Ozempic. Fine. Took that. And it was better than Victoza, because I was a horrible patient with Victoza on the daily shot, better patient on Ozempic. And then I'm scrolling through TikTok, and I'm like, Mounjaro. So then I went to my doctor. I'm like, I want Mounjaro today. He's like, okay, wrote it. I got it. No problem. But then my insurance at that point said no. But I had the coupon. I had the original coupon. So I was good. And actually at that point I had two prescriptions. So I knew I would be fine moving forward. And then I discovered this amazing community on TikTok and all of you. And I feel like I finally am in a place where I can talk about this stuff and I can share my experiences. So working in pharma, it was a rep forever, then worked in account management, and they've always called on payers for the last, since 2008. And so the payers are the insurance companies. And now I work in market access, where our customers are the PBMs. So,
okay.
it's interesting. It's a really interesting field. I've been in a part of discussions with these people, and we have the big pharma side. So trust me, I am also a patient. I work in big pharma, but I'm also a patient. So I understand what people are saying about the big pharma side, but I also understand what those discussions look like with PBMs, and they are gnarly sometimes. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and
yes.
And I'm glad we have this time together.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for coming. I can completely relate. And I had a situation like that too. And it's so funny looking back, hindsight, where someone says something to you like that, like that guy said to you. I remember when I went out with a guy once, and he was like, he had been drinking. He was like, I don't mean to be rude, but if you lost 50 pounds, you would be hot.
Oh my God.
at the time, I didn't say anything. I was just inside a puddle on the
You're just
floor.
like, yeah.
But now I'm like, bitch, I've always been hot. Like, and
Yeah.
I would have said that to his face now, regardless of the fact that I haven't lost all my weight yet. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Because there's a level of like confidence. I think that one comes with time, right? And two comes with like, you know, as you take this medicine, because just I don't know about you guys have had this, but I just see things like a whole different perspective. You know, like I'm just able to see things. Yeah, like I don't know. You know, they always say, do you know how they always say that we only use a small portion of our brain? You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like my brain fires totally differently now. Like probably like it should have always. You know what I mean? But
Maybe just
anyway,
because you
yada
get some
yada.
extra confidence and stuff like that. Like now, I'm totally familiar. My mom, I
People
know
are in
that.
trouble.
Yeah, I know that they say
Yeah.
things out of love, but my mom used to always say stuff like that. Like, you'd be so
Yeah.
striking if you just lost some more weight.
Yes. That's such a beautiful
Okay,
thing.
like,
Yeah.
okay, thanks, Mom.
I understand. Yes.
This
The
medication
struggle is
has
real.
Still obsessed. Like, why? I feel like the Mariah Carey song now. Like, why are you so obsessed with me? Like,
Right?
before I used to
Because
be
it
so
isn't.
angry about it, but
And
look,
that's the
why are
thing
you
too,
so
is like
why are you
these
so
kinds of
obsessed about it?
comments. Yeah, but like
Yeah.
these kinds of comments, like even from your mom and stuff, like what I've learned is mostly because my baby sister taught me this. She's so smart, but she was like, listen, like when people say that shit, like it's way more about them and
Right.
their insecurities and
Mm.
their
A
lack
ton
of
more.
feeling in any way than it is about you. You just
So
happen to be
way
like the
more.
target. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's just not.
Yeah.
And so
But
when
it
I hear
always
these
circles
things,
back
but
to
it hurts
them.
sometimes, right? Like people
Always.
still say it, especially in our community. They jump in on our lives, they comment on our videos,
Uh-huh.
and you know, and it's just, and if one more person tells me to eat less and move more, like I'm done with it. I used to like,
Yeah.
I used to be like, you know what? You have cracked the code. Like that's what it's supposed
Exactly.
to be. You have
Okay.
solved 40% of America's obesity.
I got to tell you one thing, and one thing
Yeah,
I don't
tell
know
me,
everybody
tell me.
talked, but I'll tell you.
No,
So
tell me.
I always used to I would still get them like where men would come up to me and be like, you know what? I'm not normally attracted to big girls, but you're so sexy, or you're so beautiful, or they'll
Jerks.
phrase it with, I like big women. Okay, fine, but lately I think maybe because I think it's 40 something and just started to get tired of it. I say kind of raw things. It's like, okay, do you have to preface with this? Is someone going to come out of the wall and come because you want to have sex with the fat chick? Like what's the deal? Yeah, like you know
That's
who
awesome.
doesn't do that is my husband. He's never, hey,
Yeah.
no, like anyway.
Same.
Yeah.
So I'm a smart ass now. Before I used to be like, oh God, whatever. But now I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like assholes, but you're still an
Yeah.
asshole.
Oh, that's perfect.
But this
I don't like apples,
medication
usually.
has given
so true.
us so much courage. Like you
Yeah.
hear about it where things that you used to let slide,
Yeah.
you know, you would let them slide in the past. Now,
Yeah.
oh no, buddy, you know,
Mm-mm.
it is like pull up on me, bro. You know.
Like I'm not sure. I think it could be a combination of like I think once I hit over 40, I just
Oh yeah, it's definitely an age
I have no
combination
time
me
for
too.
the shit.
Yeah. Like I already kind
That's
of
it.
felt that way over 40, and then like once I took the
But
medicine, I
then
was
yeah,
like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I am like
Anyway.
that now. Yeah. Anyway,
TV
well, I've
guys
segmented
aside.
out for us to talk about certain things, and so I was thinking we could kind of dig in. But here's kind of what I was thinking. So I was thinking we could kind of start about the Mounjaro savings card. So like I mentioned at the beginning, it ends in June, right? For people who with it not covered by your insurance. But they did drop a new one. So I wanted to kind of talk about that and what the differences are. And then also talk about like, what do we think in terms of, you know, the FDA approval for obesity with this? We have the SURMONT-2 data that was out, you know, I guess about over a month now. And so everybody thinks they're saying it's going to be Q4. Like, what do we think that's going to look like? And do we think they're going to honor this card, like this new card that says you have to have type 2 diabetes? Like, do we think they're going to offer that, you know, or cover that? Like, I just kind of want to just like speculate about these things because I know our community is thinking it. And so obviously going forward, community, please understand we're coming to a place of opinions. Now, opinions are like buttholes. And my
we all
husband
got
says,
one.
everybody
Everybody has
has one and everybody else's thinks everybody else's stinks. So in general, just know that's where we're coming at you. If we're going to throw a fact at you, we will say it's a fact, but just assume going forward, we are speculating our faces off. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, tell me what, Lisa, I know you have experience with the whole idea of like savings cards in general, like based on like, how does this work? You know, when people bring these drugs to market in these savings cards. And then let's talk a little bit specifically about what you think about maybe the one that just came out.
Yeah, so typically, I mean, the savings cards have been around for a long time, and it really, I think the inception was when a lot of these specialty drugs came into play. So, so I think in the early 2000s, and the idea is that they want to keep patients on medications. So, I mean, that's ultimately they want long-term patients. So and the patients are evaluated. Benefits are evaluated every year. So this drug was launched mid-year. So you have and during chaos too. So for example, when I was with AbbVie and we had Humira, there was patients that would start on the medication for the indication. So if you even look on the website, any website for specialty drugs, you'll look. It was just let's just say rheumatoid arthritis. They would have to mark the box rheumatoid arthritis, but if they had a comorbidity or they had a different indication like psoriatic arthritis, which was not indicated, it was off label, they could still use the savings card for that. Now it's just, I think there's so much hype around this particular card and this drug because there's so many people that are affected by it and it works. I mean, this is not berberine. So these drugs are studied and they work, and there's so much noise around them. And legally, I mean, Eli Lilly with Mounjaro in particular, and actually any of them, if the indication is for type 2 diabetes, they can't market off label for anything else. So they're kind of
interesting
in a little conundrum until they get the obesity indication. So but back in the day when there wasn't a lot of noise around this, I think there was a lot more leeway with off label.
Interesting. Okay. So, but you're saying that in general, because they don't have the indication yet, regardless of the fact that so many people are using it off label for obesity, that they are permitted, right? Or not permitted to market, right? Like they cannot.
They will I mean, any company cannot promote off label. So even if even if in the studies, like they wouldn't even be able to show any of the clinical studies in particular. They can send them to the doctors, but because there's so many other because these drugs are for type 2 diabetes to lower A1C, and just one of the side effects, good side effects, is weight loss. They can't talk about. They wouldn't be able to talk about that. As far as
is that why, like, some of those commercials, the advertisements, they say, and you may be able to lose a little weight, or that's all they can say.
Yeah, but it is true though, and that's the thing is, regardless of even these other medications like Ozempic, right? So Ozempic isn't for weight loss, but it still does cause weight loss, and that still is a positive side effect, and it's still something to highlight, So especially now they have the indication, right? The approval, which is why we have wegovy, but it still is it's a true fact. Like, you know what I mean? Like but I do think that it's weird. And I wonder, because I did remember when the Super Bowl came out and Mounjaro had that commercial and they were actually in shortage when that happened. And I was like, yeah, but like from a marketing perspective, you never stop building demand. Like you just don't. So, but at the same time, they had to be super careful with that piece, but they were never going to miss that opportunity for that nugget, because anybody that struggles with type 2 diabetes, and we know Trini understands this firsthand, knows how difficult it is to lose weight, right? And that's why so many people that have type 2 diabetes struggle with obesity, And I think that they really didn't miss that opportunity, and they play that commercial like crazy. People are like, why are they doing this? It's a shortage. I'm like, they're going to be out of shortage soon. Like they know. I think they learned from Ozempic, Wegovy's total cock up, like with the shortage at the time of last year. I think they were like, okay, this may happen. How do we recover? Because they recovered quick, Like, I mean, it was like a month and they were out of they weren't marked as shortage anymore, Anyway, that's that.
But it just always seems to be a constant shortage. It's just like, you
I think that isn't going to stop.
Supply I don't think 3 months and then another 3 months you don't. So
it doesn't seem consistent on drugs all the time. When I was a hospital rep too, I remember the buyers, because there's certain drugs that you just cannot have shortages on, and there's shortages. So I mean, it happens. This is just, we're just affected by this, but it's a lot of drugs all the time.
Yeah. Like my son has a medication that because he has some sensitivities, and he has a medication that he has to have this one for this thing. And I'm not going to say it because it's public, but we couldn't find it anywhere. And like I was calling it because there's a shortage, you know, and that was completely nothing to do with any of this. This has been going on for a long time, right? And I think people forget that, and so automatically the media takes that narrative, right, and they just start running with it. Oh, all these
Right.
people, all these fat, lazy people, like they're trying to steal the medicine from the diabetics, and that's not even true, you know. And it's just like such bullshit. And so again, that's another reason why we're here venting and talking about these things. But yeah,
It
and I
is.
think yeah. But about the savings card, so that's something we mentioned in June. It is a very hot topic right now because
Yes.
many of our friends and our very large community on TikTok, on Facebook, you know, they're using this, and this medication has literally changed their lives. If you hear the testimonies, and you've heard it on many of the episodes, they're incredibly impactful. And I'm sure some of you have heard one that goes, that sounds like me, you know? And so I think what's important is that with that going away, we've been talking for many months, like you should have a plan B. And the plan B we've talked about is going on like wegovy if you can, if your insurance plan covers it, or trying to get a pre-authorization approved, right? Or to find a way, even though you may not be able to use a savings card, or save up and try to pay for the medication with cash, or, and here's what we're going to talk about it, go on compound. And we heard a lot of things in news about compound pharmacies, and like we're thinking, and y'all, we are seeing some shit like on social media about one dupes, right? Like people being like, this is an Ozempic dupe, it's cookie dough, right?
Just
Or we've seen
hey,
people
hell yeah.
saying,
Right.
yeah, don't go. I heard one guy, and I did rant. One guy was like, oh, like, here's my new accelerator plan. And these medications, sure, you lose weight when you go off them and you'll gain them all back. And they're experimental. The fuck they are. They are not experimental. Like, stuff like that. Like, there's just so much crap. People taking this opportunity to take advantage of people in our community to try to get them on something else that they can afford. And I think in general, like with the savings card, it's like, what do we think they're going to do? Because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to try to fill. I'm going to still try to fill after June and see if it'll work. And like, I speculate that there is air cover involved, and that certain pharmacies, likely very large distributors, will likely have air cover to continue to accept savings cards even after they have expired. Now, do I think that's right or true? No, but I do think that, because here's the thing, like, here's what I can't wrap my head around, is that we are months, Eli Lilly is months away, months within the year of launching the biggest selling drug of all time, right? And they're months away from getting the indication for obesity, and they busted it and spent tons of money getting the base for obesity, not just type 2, because the base for obesity is much larger, right? Because 40% of Americans, right, we know they suffer with obesity. And so it's a much larger base. So, but it just doesn't make sense just to cut people off right at the nails. You know what I'm saying?
Look,
Janine, let's speculate. Do it.
Look, whoa. Look, let's just roll it back a little bit. Okay,
no, we're gonna disagree. It's okay.
Yeah. No. But it isn't
but
that
still, like the insurance companies that are, you got to get them on board too, right? Like,
wait a minute, Kat.
Do.
But what I'm saying is that yes, it's a 40% obesity. It's a percentage of obesity. 40% of Americans are diabetic. So
that's a lot.
So it is neck and neck. So the statement of it's more obesity, that's not correct.
Fair.
But it like isn't anything to be like, oh, well, we have more. No. You can't diminish one. And I'm not saying that I'm just saying that we as a community cannot diminish one disease to make another, to like justify something
well,
else.
not to mention how many of those people, that 40% that we're talking about that are obese or diabetic, are both, right? Like,
I'm sorry,
that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like those who are, we know that 80 to 90% of people that are obese struggle with type 2. Do you know what I'm saying?
True.
Yeah.
But
so it's like, I don't even know what the differentiations of numbers is there.
That's I mean, because they're the same, but they're different. And people want them to be the same, and they're not. And I think that we have to be responsible in our messaging,
Yeah.
period, across the board. You have to be responsible with that. And diabetes and obesity are very similar, but they are not the same. So in terms of the savings card, if anyone listens, and Lisa, I'm not sure if you agree with this or not, but if you listen to Eli Lilly's financial calls, they want this $25 card gone. No matter what the conspiracy theory is, they want their money. Like, they want their money. And that's what they want. And so it seems like to me, and this is just to me, it seems like a good segue to the obesity, for it to be FDA approved for obesity. Now, I guess, and I'm with you all, what are they going to do after December 31st?
Yeah.
Because now the savings card is saying that you attest in all caps.
Yeah.
Which that I'm just like, and that you're and everything is diabetic. So it's like they tightened it, but it kind of made sense what Lisa was saying. It's like, did they legally have to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. Like, what is that exchanging hands situation? Like, if you choose to download the new savings card, and if you choose to attest that you're type 2 and you aren't, say you're insulin resistant, but you're not type 2, even if you're as close as you can get in pre-diabetes, if you say you're type 2 and but you don't have that diagnosis, what does that mean if you use the card to fill? And do we think that pharmacies are even going to allow that, or are they going to require going forward that you have the type 2 diabetes? Because we've seen a lot coming through right now. We see also on social media and our community, we're seeing a lot of people saying that we're getting pullback from these pharmacy benefit managers, or coming and sending these very sweeping emails and letters to doctors and to all of us saying, hey, like, going forward, point blank period, GLP-1, you have to have type 2, unless it's wegovy or Saxenda, So that's what we're hearing a lot of right now. And it's like, so I think we need to decide, like, what does that mean? And we don't know, right? Like, we're just speculating, but we don't really know. But I would really like to understand, and maybe Lisa, you do, like, when someone attests that something is true and then they use it, are they possibly on the hook for the money if the pharmacy actually honors the coupon, or is the pharmacy on the hook? Like, how does that work? Is anybody on the hook? Are there hooks at all? Are we fishing at anything?
I don't know exactly, but my assumption is, we're just guessing here amongst friends, that once it's who assumes the risk. So once that pharmacy dispenses the drug, so they have assumed the risk when they give it to the patient. So they could probably come back after the patient, but the likelihood of getting paid is probably pretty low. So that they could send you bills for it. But legally, I really don't know.
I don't either.
To your point, I think that manufacturers really, we don't want to pay. Because if you're paying $25 as a patient, who's paying for the rest of that drug? That'd be the manufacturer.
Right.
So ideally, that's why they depend on people in my role, that they can go back to the PBMs and get coverage for these medications. So then we're shifting the costs then to the PBM and the plan. So,
which is what they ultimately want, because I think the cash pay target for anybody spending $800 to $1,500 a month, or whatever it may be where you live, for these medications is pretty low. Like, I feel like that's a very small revenue stream that they would expect. So it makes sense that they would want to get on more families, but from what I understand, they need more time to do that. And then with the new indication for obesity, that's even like more time.
Exactly. How much time does that, just in your expert experience, like, how much time does that, essentially take? Or is there a range
to get coverage?
Yes.
Or to, like, once the indication is there, to be able to get it on formularies. Is it years?
To do the rollout of it.
I would say it just depends. So it really depends on the individual plan. So they'll talk about efficacy, so that you need to bring the data to them, and pricing, and then there's all kinds of rebates and admin fees that like the money circle that we pay in pharma to the medical side of the plan and to the pharmacy benefit side of the plan. And then about the employer, because it doesn't matter if the plans, like, let's say Optum has a buffet of different plans that they offer to different employers, and they're like, okay, it depends on how much you want to spend as an employer on your employees. So an Optum in New York could be, for the say the state of New York would be different than an Optum for the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
For any employer,
Totally.
any employer. So ultimately, it's going to come down to the employers. That's why I am really, well, you got to talk to your employer about coverage for kids.
Yep.
So it's still, we're still going back to the employer. But it makes sense. It does.
Yeah. Well, and that's another reason that I've said too, like we've been seeing a lot of statements like, hey, going forward, like again, like with the pharmacy benefit managers saying, you're going to have a HEPTA type for anything that's a GLP-1, unless your plan covers the weight loss versions of these GLP-1s, you're going to have this, diagnosis, if you will. But the thing is it really just does depend on the plan, and the plan depends on what they've decided with the company and with your job. Because like, even though people have said things like, and this is like, I mean, I have a big company, so I'm not concerned to say this, but my company allows for me to take Ozempic, or did, off label, and it wasn't a problem, but like anything else I were to take, and honestly, Trulicity I can take off label. I can take Victoza off label, and it wasn't a problem, and they would cover it. But my company also covers wegovy. So now they're trying to push me to do wegovy instead of Ozempic, which is like, fine, I needed to go up anyway. And I'm very open about this because, again, I work for a huge company, a huge public company. So it's like not a secret, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just how they do their stuff. But I got a letter that was like, hey, and they never said anything like as drastic as other people, right? That have said like, oh, no more, like a very big sweeping statement. It was, we're working with your company and we want you to have them contact us to do a pre-authorization because we want to make sure you're using this medication safely. And that was it, so it's, and that's my whole point, is like, I don't like us to be like, all pharmacy benefit managers will have this going forward. I do think they make very big memos and very big shows of this is what we think, but there are exceptions to every rule. And I think that has to do with money and the plan that your employer has chosen. But that is like what I think. But I'm speculating. Anybody else got an opinion? No? Yes, maybe. Tell me.
It just seems so
it's down to
big
your employer.
sometimes. And like Lisa was saying, like I know, like for me, you just take for granted that the drug just appears and it works, and you're like, okay, but it's such a process to get medication to you, and I know just going to my doctor last week and overhearing some doctors, and Lisa and Kat, Kim, I'm not sure if you all have heard this also, but in terms of the savings card and in terms of like the stock levels and everything, they were saying that this, the rules have been tightened because diabetics couldn't get their medication. This was coming from doctors. And I was just like, well, I didn't say anything. I just kept my mouth shut.
You were like, I'm on a podcast about this issue.
Right. I mean, I started to ear hustle a little bit. And I'm not sure if like, is that really one of the reasons? I know that, I mean, I'm a diabetic, but I've never had an abnormal issue of getting my medication. I can truly say that.
Is that one of the reasons? Like, is it for type 2 diabetes?
That's what they were saying, and they were, kind of off to themselves. And I said, oh my gosh, I think that's a good question for Lisa, because they were saying, diabetics weren't able to get their medications, but I'm like, huh? And I just thought of me, and I haven't had a problem, but I know I'm not an island, so I didn't know if that was really the message. Or
I think they for sure play this shit up as much as possible, because I think that's the best narrative, because I don't think the drug companies want to take any accountability that they haven't planned accordingly. And I think that they will put out the spin that they can to make it sound like it is the fault of the fat people, because I mean that's
they're going to shift it. They're going to shift the blame.
Yeah, like, come on, this is America. That's what it's all about, right? Like, don't look over here. Well, this hits movie, like, like that's just what they do. And with everything, especially I think with big pharma, it's very hard to like have this medication and have it change your life the way it is, but also hate big pharma because one, they employ a lot of people, and two, they do make some good shit. You know, so it's like
Lisa
But
would
I
have all of
mean,
that experience,
Lisa,
right? Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, Lisa, is that the narrative in the medical community?
That they can't get the diabetic patients can't get the medicine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, there's a shortage issue.
Yeah.
But a lot, especially like, so I have an endocrinologist that I've seen forever. He has prescribed to me, but so they're the ones that are seeing the diabetic patients and patients that have other like hypothyroidism, PCOS. They're the ones, I mean, they're the hormone doctors. So they're very, I don't think, I have not heard that, but I can also tell you that, I mean, Eli Lilly, I'm very confident the reps that are going in there they're talking about patients with type 2 diabetes. So anything else, any other patient, and there's, I mean, these doctors are getting, or patients are requesting these drugs. So I think there's just onslaught. So I think, that diabetic patients that are prescribed it and can't get it, it's definitely an issue. Janine, are you asking me? I don't know if doctors might be even being judicious about who they write it for. Are they going to?
That's what we're hearing. That's the new thing.
Look, so last week, and I haven't even talked about this. So this is the first time that I've talked about this openly. My doctor, who I've been with for over 20 years, and I've never seen her like this. And in our, doctor patient visits, she had her iPad, which I have also, and she sent over the refill for Mounjaro to my pharmacy. However, she said, "Oh, wait a minute," and like she got really nervous. And she said, "Let me make sure that I put this diagnosis code on your script." And she also gave me a paper script just in case. And she put a diagnosis code and circled it on the bottom left-hand corner. And she said, "Janine, if I don't put a diagnosis code on your prescription, you will not get it." And I said, "What?"
Where did she hear that? She had to have heard that from somebody.
So she said they may not be communicating with you all, but they're communicating with us. She didn't say who they was.
Who is the they? Is it the pharmacy benefits manager? Because that's what Suburban RX, right?
He
That was on
didn't say.
episode 2.
Right.
Did you see that? He showed one from Humira that was like, "Hey, going forward, this is the thing." But like, what does that matter to them? Do you understand? Like, I don't.
But she was saying, as a patient, she said, as your doctor, I now have to put a diagnosis code on your Mounjaro prescription.
Next time you go, I want to know why she thinks that.
Oh, no. Well, it wasn't a thing, honey.
But she knew. Why did she know that? That like, who told her she has to do that? There has to be somebody.
She didn't say who's the hey? Who communicated, but she said that she's been receiving official communications.
So from PBMs.
About that. She didn't say from who.
Yeah. But it's like, but if the doctor has nothing to do with pharmacy, then I don't understand why a PBM would even matter to them.
Look,
you know what I mean?
So then when I get to my pharmacy, I ask my pharmacist, like, "Hey, do you require a diagnosis code for Mounjaro?" And she said, "No, we don't." She said, "But the insurance company will kick it back
if there's not one." Oh, Janine froze. Ready? We're gonna do our countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let go. Live it up. That's always think.
There she is. I can count that shit down now. I got it. All right, you're back. So they said they'll kick it back, and that's where you left off and you got frozen.
Now you're on mute.
Yeah. Oh, now you're on mute. Are you on mute? Janine, I hate your internet. Oh. Okay, now you're on mute. Talk again. Can you hear us? This happens once an episode. It's kind of become a joke. All right, you might have to leave and come back. I don't know.
I can see. I mean, I can see the PBMs requiring that, and the, I mean, and then but the pharmacies are the ones that are holding the bag at the end of the day. It's like
literally.
They have the drug between the drug and the patient. So and they want to get reimbursed. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I know my husband, so he worked for McKesson for a really long time. And he was like, sometimes getting reimbursed can take months.
Oh yeah.
And it's very like, it takes a long time and they want their money now. And this medicine is like really expensive. He was like, so I can see them trying to be like very judicious about it, right? Really wanting to make sure that they're getting it as quick as possible, or making sure they're giving people they think is a sure bet. Right. And I get that. Like I see all of those things changing. But speaking of pharmacy benefit managers, now legitimately, I'm pretty sure now we have some people in our community that are on GLP1s, some of our people in our community that work for pharmacy benefit managers because they're big companies, just like you that works in pharma, like doesn't make it all bad. You know, you ain't bad guys and it's not your decision, you know, but they still understand what it is we're going through, but it is still their job. And many of them are having to go through and do audits of PAs that got approved before that maybe shouldn't have been because of recent changes. And I don't know what that change equals or what that change was, but it all seems to be centering around Mounjaro. It all seems to be centering around their lack of FDA approval for obesity yet, and to be centering around the ending of the savings card, because that's where the timing has been. So we have seen a lot of people in our community say that they are having pharmacy benefits managers use TikTok to use as a search engine to be able to try to figure out ways that people are getting PAs approved, right? And maybe they shouldn't because they don't have type 2, and that they're sharing it with other people in the community. And then they're using said loopholes and tricks, you know, to be able to do that, and then causing this massive increase in PAs and this massive increase of medications that weren't necessarily covered before that all of a sudden are being covered. So they're taking our stuff that's very public and like using it against us, if you will. And we have seen this a lot. So I'm curious, like, do you know much about them? Like,
I have
is that something they do?
About that, because when we back in 2008, when we were educating physician groups on the Affordable Care Act, that's where all of the focus was coming into play of who is costing the plans money. So the medical side and pharmacy side. So we were actually worked with Price Waterhouse, and they were talking to the groups, and they said every plan has either a star rating or a color system or some kind of rating system by every doctor and how much money they cost the plan. So if they're an outlier if they're billing a lot and they're highly profitable, or they are pushing in so too many PAs, they're unnecessary. They're like unwillingly or unwittingly bringing attention to themselves. So the amount of is it like the telehealth doctors that are doing a lot of these PAs? Are they the ones that are being targeted, or is it just PAs in general? That's PBM people.
I can imagine it's also likely the very successful ones. Like, so we know, and here's the thing: if this is a big statement. If it is a telehealth doctor, or any doctor that is a specialist, like obesity specialist or endocrinologist, they are the ones that we know from our community and education probably know the most about the disease of obesity, the disease of diabetes, and how these medications can be used to treat those two things, whether it's together or separate. So I think what's important to think about is that, you know, as we are learning like about like these different ones that are more successful than other, the chances are that if you're going to go to someone that's a specialist, the things that are going to get approved, right, are for sure the one, like it's gonna look like a lot, right, because it's one person that's targeting one thing. So of course there's going to be, you know, 2,000 PAs for this with maybe 800 approved, I don't know, whatever. Like the approval rate is going to be higher for somebody that actually knows about this disease and about these medications, because they know how to do the wording and the diagnosis codes and all of those different things. You know what I mean? So I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I can see that if they were looking at an uptick that they would notice that, but is that necessarily a bad thing? No, because they're specialists. You know what I mean? But I still can see them being like, oh, low hanging fruit, you know, and starting there. Yeah.
And the doctors aren't profiting. It's not like they're not using this medication in their office, so they're not getting any kind of there's no profitability, but they're just trying to help. So that's where I think that the peer-to-peer discussions are so important. that these
Yeah, for sure.
And they,
how does that even work? Because like I haven't gotten that far yet. Like with the whole peer-to-peer, like what level of the process of like appeal does that usually happen?
So I had my fourth appeal for, I actually got to the third level at Care, because Caremark's my PBM. So, without revealing too much information, the doctor needs to get a hold of the prior auth department at that point and have a discussion. So, and you can
at the fourth level or after the fourth?
After I mean, I would say it depends on your plan, because sometimes it only allowed two, an appeal, and then 2 appeals after the PA, and then they take you off. But I was like, hell no, you are not doing that to me. So after 4, and it was, that it was just the my doctor's MA did not, she in the original PA she put in, she said I had hypoglycemia, and I was like, bitch, like what is that? Like she ruined a whole PA for me, and that's when I took over, and it was like, and he's just, I mean, and I don't want to get too, because I don't want to reveal a lot of information here.
Of course not.
But I helped my doctor get to the point, and they're really busy, and they can still look at your chart. But if they have all of your information read, kind of bullet pointed out, and ready to talk about, that discussion between them and the prior auth department is that's what kind of can push it over. So, but my doctor, I mean, these doctors spend hours a day, or like my doctor said, he spends 1 extra hour a day just on PAs. He's like, I'm not getting paid for that. So, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Wow.
It is. And then I think also doctors that aren't specialists, that don't have like PA departments, right? And they're just like small GPs, or, I think that they have even a bigger issue, because honestly, I feel like I've got a lot of really good care from my GP. But the problem that I came to is like, they really didn't know how to do PAs for something this complex. Right. And that was such a struggle. But obesity specialists, they do know how, and not all of them can think outside the box and realize like, and it's not that, and that's the thing too, is like, sure, there are some people that are looking for, I guess, ways around things. But you know what kills me? The reason that they're fucking doing that, I'm sorry, I'm laying it out there. The reason they're doing that is because we have been driven to this. The problem is we get these medications, and this type of medication, which we know works, that has changed our lives, right? And we're at the point now where we will do whatever it takes to find whatever loophole there is to get the medication that we need. And it's, why are we driven there? That is absolutely ridiculous, because here's what's going to happen. And we'll talk about it in a second. We have compound, right? So we have compounded medications that we know there are a bunch out there that are not safe. There are not safe practices. We know some that are more safe, but none of them are FDA approved. Right. So at the end of the day, we're all out there taking risks, and there are people making some crazy freaking connections on social media to buy compound semaglutide or semaglutide, however you say it, from individuals or meta spas, and being paid that like, oh, okay, sure. Like, it's cool. Come in here and we'll give you your injection. These medications were made for you to do your own injection. Like, what are you doing? And they're all trying to capitalize on it and take advantage of people in our community. But what makes me mad is we are driven here because we can't go back. Like, once you're at this level with this medication, and it's the only thing that's ever worked because you have had a biological dysfunction in your body and is now solving it, and you are at a level mentally where you're like, I was sick for however many years, I cannot go back. So then you're willing to do and take these different risks. And so it's a massive problem. And I'm terrified for our community because the stuff I am seeing is blowing my mind. And back to that, please make sure, people that are listening, if you choose compound, and many of us are pro compound as long as it's safe. Okay. But if you're going to choose that, we have episodes 2, 7, and 8, part 1 and 2, where we talk about red flags to look for. Do not do that shit. Make sure that if you're going to choose any of this, sorry, I got my soapbox, don't do it. There are plenty of things that you can look for, and there are ways around this. And y'all, this is not the end of this journey. We're in the middle of where GLP1s are at this point. Just like Lisa said, it's been what, 2012? Didn't you say that you took Victoza?
2012, right?
That's how long. So we're in the middle, right? Like of where these things are going. Just like Alex said, like in 3 years, you're going to look back and remember we took Mounjaro. Oh yeah, but now we take this one that's so much better, right? Like this, we're there. We're on the other side of this at this point. So I hate for people to make these like really rash decisions when maybe we're 3 to 6 months from them getting the next best thing for them because there's actually approval and it's safe, you know? So the whole thing like really concerns me. As you can tell, I got a little passionate there for a minute. What do y'all think?
I'm going to make this silly analogy like I always do. And please understand, my sense of humor is just how I cope and deal with life.
So same.
Listen, Eli Lilly is like Nino Brown, and we out here like Pookie, just looking. We just need we need our hit. You know, it's so true.
It's so bad though.
We're out here like.
I
so have the thing, and it's not that we're hooked
with you.
It's that we don't want to be.
You what? What'd you say, Janine?
You know,
I so have to agree with you because some of the stuff I've seen is some real junky behavior, and I'm like, and you know, again, I'm not judging, but
no, like it's desperation, Janine. Like that's the thing. Is it? Yes.
Yeah.
I would feel the exact same way if I didn't have access to this medication because I was sick for so long, and now I'm not sick anymore.
Taste of it, it's okay. Like,
and not just a taste, like a year of you being like, oh my God, there's light on the other side.
And
nobody
was Nobody was bothering me for a few months, and then all of a sudden, we're not going to cover this, and and then it turned into a rat race, right? But then then the PAs came out, but like like I was telling you guys earlier before we started recording, like I went to the pharmacy with my cheeks clenched to see.
You're like,
you're trying to follow the rules like as much as possible. You know what I mean?
And so my plan did still cover it. So I didn't, know, for now.
That's good.
So
for now.
But
we all only have for now, right? Because they change this shit all the time. Like Lisa knows. And then
I feel like it's a moving target.
Yeah. Like they'll change like criteria, just like the savings card. Like I love how the savings card, it's like, we reserve the right to change whatever we want, whenever we want, however we want. And you
they said that one.
That was the option
letter,
right?
Though.
Yeah.
They said that before. And
they're gangsters.
We need a lawyer.
People became so incensed and saying, you can't mess with my Mounjaro. They can.
Yes.
Look, you know why? Because it's theirs.
Yeah.
They own the patent. But it has become such a part of people's lives. But Lisa, why do you think that they came out with this type of savings card? Like, why didn't they just, where everything is diabetes? I mean,
you mean the one that just came out?
Yeah, correct.
Because that's what the FDA indication is.
Yeah.
Period.
Does it put anything in jeopardy with like them getting approval with the FDA?
No, I don't think so.
No, like if they were to market it,
they'll get fined millions or billions of dollars. Like, I mean, as far as like
from the FDA, is that who finds them?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, you'll see, if you could do easy Google searches. I think Pfizer was the first $1 billion off-label. I mean, I was part of one that's, we had a consent decree, we had where and then you have to take all these compliance modules about I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So if they were knowingly allowing scripts to go through that were not for type 2 diabetes in particular, I mean, it really goes against the guidelines.
Yeah.
So, and they can get sued.
Lots of fines.
I want to say something about compounding pharmacies. This is what I say. Because if a push came to shove and I needed to get a compound, I would look for a compound. But a couple things.
Yeah.
I would, if your prescriber would bet their medical license against that compounding pharmacy, then I would feel comfortable using that compounding pharmacy. Because if something went wrong with me, I would not only sue that pharmacy, but I would sue the provider for prescribing it to me. But it's highly profitable. I have a friend who I work with, who was a pharmacist, owned a pharmacy, and the margins, he said they used a compounding pharmacy for certain drugs.
Yeah.
They loved it because the margins were like between 35 and 55% profit.
Yeah.
So they're highly, highly profitable. He said, but it's not regulated. It's not regulated like we in pharma are. There's different regulations. A lot of that's why they're going after the states. And my guess is ultimately that Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are going to go after the raw material supply chain.
Yeah.
These are
And
patent-
how does that work? I don't even know where do they get the raw materials.
You know what? So what I was told from my pharmacist friend is that if they come through Texas, that there's a big raw material plant or I guess distributor through Texas that's a lot more reputable than if they're getting them directly from China and India. So, but I can't verify that that's true. I mean, I don't know anything about supply chain.
It's okay. We're speculating. It's okay.
But that, I mean, it kind of makes sense. There's some kind of like U.S. regulation rather than just getting it from, from China and India. So that's scary to me. And I've seen some really scary posts about compounding pharmacies. I understand it, and people have come after me being in pharma. Like I'm like, look, I am big
really
pharma.
couldn't work there.
I'm like 90% in pharma. Yeah. So, but I can tell you that my colleagues in at Lilly and Novo are working hard and probably getting their ass kicked every day.
Yeah.
So I don't envy them. I really feel like I think that they're trying.
Yeah. Well, so last thing I wanted us to cover is that y'all remember that time that Weight Watchers / Diet Culture bought a telehealth company and I flipped my shit a little on TikTok?
I remember that time.
Remember that day? Okay.
Just a little bit.
So
just a tiny bit.
Remember that time?
Time has passed. And we recently saw Janine posted something about Noom getting into the telehealth business so that they could start offering, I call it getting into the Ozempic business, but being able to prescribe GLP1s for a monthly fee.
This looks like that maybe these big diet companies, it looks like this is like the train has fully taken off, right?
It's
and
a
trying to jump on.
plan.
Like Noom and Weight Watchers are like, listen,
like
the only way that we can survive, you're not going to be able to go sit down with a counselor like at Jenny Craig and feel like you're 2 inches tall every time you talk to them because they make you feel bad for not eating their cardboard crap food and staying on their calorie deficits. But now we're looking at Noom and Weight Watchers attaching. This is definitely this is the direction it's going in.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing is it's so crazy because before this, like less than a year ago, all we heard in the media was how the type 2 diabetics couldn't get their medication because of the fat people. Like that's all we heard. That was the spin. It's all their fault. It's all their fault because, nobody, again, manufacturers, nobody went to accountability and that's all we could hear. And then of course us on the obesity community was really having to like defend that off. And then of course people like Janine that suffers with both, I'm sure felt very much in the middle and it's been quite the riff. Right. And then now we're at the point where the narrative in like less than 6 months has gone from what I just mentioned to, oh, hey, by the way, just kidding. The solution isn't to eat less and move more. Like that doesn't really actually work for the disease of obesity. You're right. You do have to be on these medications forever or something like it for a long period of time because it's chronic. And this is actually the gold standard. And adding this with Diet Mexico, I'm like, you pieces of crap. The reason you're changing the narrative is because this opinion, you're just being puppets. Like it's a marionette and there is money behind this. And as soon as diet culture was like not trying to defend itself anymore, like, hey, come back to us. The drugs are bad. And now they're like, oh, wait a minute. Like that is the future. And they've made this massive shift. And all of a sudden the whole narrative has changed to like in our favor. And so now all of my from Weight Watchers, I'm like, I don't know. Like at least
how are they going to get those PAs? That's my question. How is no Weight Watchers going to get your insurance to cover this?
Compounds. You watch.
Oh, you think?
Compounds. Because only if you notice, only a few of them say wegovy. They always say semaglutide, semaglutide. They really don't.
But can't they only do that technically? Isn't that something they really are only supposed to legally be able to do during a shortage, though? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Semaglutide, semaglutide has been approved for weight loss, for obesity treatment.
Yeah, but there's still a patent.
Well,
they can add B12 all they want to this stuff, but it's
you know what, that I think is such a good question because just like all of the doctors have said, and Lisa, and I can't even imagine the position you're in, because obesity is such a complex disease and it's layers to it. So maybe they're coming at it as like, this is another layer, but it seems like that's the last, like, end of the road. They will try to me, I think they're going to try and do diet and exercise first. And then if that doesn't work, then they'll prescribe a semaglutide, semaglutide. And when I looked up Noom today, the reviews were absolutely horrible. They were
they
like,
rejected me. I couldn't even get Noom. I was too far gone.
How did they
but I was like,
reject?
before all this, I was like, maybe I can try this, and another thing,
I
right?
thought
Like another
Noom
thing
was
that
just
I
like
could try
Weight
and help.
Watchers. Like you just go in and say, "Hey,
No,
give me a calorie
you
deficit."
have to
and let's
answer
call it a day.
questions. And I don't know, but somehow I was like, I'm a Noom reject. Like, no.
That's crazy. They put me, I tried Noom. They put me on like, say, 1,100 calories. And I was like, oh, honey, baby, please. I was like, 1,200 or 13 calories.
That is so dangerous,
I
Kat.
tried real hard.
Especially
for
with
2
as much
days.
as you exercise. Like, oh, God.
And then I hit
Wildly.
KFC drive-through or whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And I said,
Yeah.
well,
I don't know.
KFC's
Like,
pot
so
pie is really good though. So.
Well, yeah.
You know what I've noticed? Like since I've been taking Mounjaro, like fast food.
I know,
I
right?
don't know either. Yeah. I'm like, I'll just wait home and I'll just eat this protein bar. It's amazing, like, how you don't have an emotional relationship to food anymore. It really is. I mean, that's a conversation obviously for like another day, another episode, but I think we've covered quite a bit. I know we've used a lot of like Lisa's time. We certainly appreciate her coming. But is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, like that we didn't cover, Lisa? Because we want your opinion here and your perspective is really good.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about what everybody thinks about the. So we call it. Called the PDUFA date. It's basically when it's I had to write it down. It's the Prescription Drug User Fee Act. It's basically when the date's going to be the approval date is. So there's no published PDUFA date for the new indication. They got the accelerated approval. Go ahead in October of 22, and then Surmount 2 came out in April, just last month that you touched on. So my thought is that, and they're in all the earnings calls too, they talk about Q4. They're hoping for Q4. So the earliest would be October. I think we're all hoping for, but I was just curious what you guys, all of you, that
So I think that that's a good question. I think it's going to be Q4 too, based on the things that you said. Although I didn't know about what was the date again, because this sounded like a fun word.
It's called PDUFA. It's
PDUFA.
PDUFA.
But they have 10 months.
Day.
They have 10 months. To approve it. So.
Really? Okay, that's good to know. So they have 10 months.
Yeah.
So so it could be October. Basically, it's like October.
Right.
So it could be sooner. It could be later. Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping.
I would hope that they're smart enough. Do you guys think that it was interesting though, that in the wording of the new coupon, like it's not until you go to download it that says you have to agree that you have type 2. Before that, it just says an FDA approved. The wording was very specific. It was like an FDA approved indication, like as opposed to saying type 2 diabetes, almost like they didn't want to update it for a while. And like, I do think people are going to keep trying to fill as long as they can. I do think people are going to try to use this additional coupon to continue to attest that they have it, even if they don't. And then I think that's when we're going to have like the pharmacies and the PBMs, and it's going to be a war. I think it's going to be a mess. But I do think that if it comes out in October, right, then I think we'll be at the point, this is something Alex just talked about in the next episode. He was like, I think it's going to be a war of the coupons, right? Because it's not like the price is going to go down yet, right? But it will be like how does Mounjaro steal back the people that left to go to Wegovy? And how does Wegovy keep the people it has and not go back to Mounjaro? Because it's going to have to be a lot more than here are bullet points why we're better, right? Because a lot of this stuff is going to come down to money, and what actually is working. Like, sure, everybody wants to have the one that's the biggest and the best, but we've also seen through studies that these are both very good medications for what you need them for in terms of obesity or type 2. So I think it'll be probably Q4 also. But I think that it would behoove them to have it be sooner rather than later.
I think it's either way Q4, because
just hang on there, people.
I think that either way, if we do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Hang in
All
there,
right,
folks.
well, this is cool. Hang in there, guys. Like, thank you so
Hang
much for
in
hanging
there.
with us on our episode.
Thanks
of
for having me,
Speculation.
everyone. This was fun.
Yes,
Thanks, Lisa.
thank
And
you,
I want to say,
Lisa.
Lisa, I caught your cute little fur baby behind you chilling.
Oh,
so.
yeah. She's like, look
Oh,
at her.
yeah.
She's like a attention whore. She just keeps going back and forth. She's like, hey.
She wants lovies. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
Oh, look, the puppy's in the
I have
back.
a floof like that too that likes to do that.
Floof.
Hi.
Oh, that's all the puppies.
Thanks for having me.
They're waiting.
Awesome.
So cute.
Well, thanks so much for hanging with us today on our very
Thank you.
off the train, off the rails episode of the
Crazy
plus
train.
size. We will be back next week. We have lots of good stuff coming. But thank you so much for being with us. I just want you guys all to remember that we know now scientifically that it is not your fault. And we also know that you're not alone. If you're not a part of our community, join, especially if you're on TikTok, because we're very open and we're very accepting there. And please come, whether you have type 2 or whether you don't have type 2, or if you're on the spectrum of insulin resistance, like we are all there to support and help each other because we have enough people already completely against us and saying horrible stuff. So just know that you can come and find us there. I know. I'm Dinosaur Monkey Farts Kim on TikTok. My son made up that name in 2020 when we were doing it. So I've kept it ever since, and I'm not changing it because it's epic. You know, Janine, what is your thing on TikTok or on your other social medias too? If you want to share.
Oh, same thing.
Same thing.
The journey. That's
the
it.
journey. Isn't it 2 E's? The E journey, isn't it?
It's
I imagine that.
Well, I don't know if the world could take 2. So I'm just going to say that it's 1.
Okay. And then Cat Carter 7 on TikTok.
Cat Carter 7 on TikTok.
Yes. And then Lisa, what is your social
Mine
media
is
share?
Lisa G_OC.
Yes. All right.
I like
Everybody, thanks so much for hanging with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good time, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.